Hello, everyone. What you're about to listen to is an episode that I recorded for the podcast that ended up on the cutting room floor. Nothing really wrong with the editing here. I just felt like the message was focused for singles and dating and first dates. So while some couples might be interested in that, I just felt like it wasn't really a fit for the show, and I just couldn't find a place to put it in context of some of the other episodes. So I put it here for those of you that want to listen, for those of you that have found this. It's was recorded for the Highly Successful Couples podcast, and I just decided to put it up here on YouTube. Some of you will find it interested to hear what you think about this conversation, what your approach is, whether you agree with some of the points that the writer put in their post that I'm addressing here in this conversation. And thanks for listening. Hello, and welcome to Highly Successful Couples, the podcast that helps couples grow together instead of growing apart. I'm your host, Nick Solacek, and today I want to dig into a conversation that's been lighting up Reddit. The title of the post: Why I Only Do Cheap First Dates as a Six-Figure Man. Now, before you roll your eyes or nod in agreement, this one sparked a lot of strong opinions, and I think it opens up some deeper questions about modern dating, expectations, and what people are actually looking for. Now, in our conversation today, we're going to talk about dating later in life, specifically after 40, because the original person who wrote this claims to be over 40 and that they've kept a log, allegedly, of their dating experiences. So let's unpack it. Now, I'm going to go back. I'm going to read this post so that you have a sense of where this conversation actually started in the first place. Here we go. First off, I just want to say I'm not a cheapskate. I have no problem spending money on someone I'm genuinely connecting with. But I've been around long enough to know when effort's being reciprocated and when I'm just funding someone else's evening. I've been keeping a dating journal on and off since my mid-20s. I'm 40 now. And over the years, I've noticed a pretty consistent pattern. When I take women on more expensive dates, mid or high-tier restaurants, high-end lounges, bowling, food and drinks, etc. I think it's funny here. He thinks like bowling is like an expensive date. Okay, going back to his post. I tend to get a second date only about 5 to 20% of the time, depending on the year, but only gets a second date 5 to 20% of the time that he goes on mid or high tier dates, in his opinion. Okay, back to his writing. But when I keep it cheap, coffee dates, walks in the park, low key stuff, I usually get a second date 20 to 50% of the time. What I've come to realize is that the women I end up seeing again genuinely don't care about what we do. There's usually better chemistry, better conversation, and it feels more natural. So now I have a personal rule: no dinner dates up front. I stick to coffee or something casual. I might make an exception for drinks and food, but only if it's a cheap spot. Let me be clear, this isn't just about saving money, though let's be real, in this economy it helps. It's also about weeding out low-interest women. If we really vibe, it shouldn't matter whether we're at a fancy restaurant or sitting on a park bench for the first date. That said, once I'm actually dating someone and we've built a little momentum, I do take them out to dinner, usually by the second or third date. But early on, I keep it simple, and honestly, it's made a huge difference. Anyone else notice similar patterns? End post. All right. So on this show, we're talking about successful relationships. We're talking about what works and what doesn't. And in the context of today, we're talking about dating. So this might be entertaining for those of you that have been married for 10, 20, 30 years. And for those of you who are wanting to gain some insight into things you might be able to do. Actually, there might be some strategies here that align for you, that really make sense. You might be thinking, my gosh, I've been spending thousands of dollars on dates, or I've been going on dates and just wasting my time in particular ways, and I want to be more effective with that. I actually want to achieve more alignment, more success, I know that I've got to sort. I know that, not all first dates are going to work out, obviously. Most of them are not going to. So, how can I be efficient? How can I sort effectively? So, this original post came from a man who earns over six figures a year. And look, depending on what city you live in, if you're earning over low six figures in some of these cities in North America that are really expensive, like Vancouver, BC, for example, where I am, low six figures, it's actually things are tight. Um, in my experience, paying big rent in the city. I mean, if you got a mortgage, it's a whole nother story. But, when it comes to dating, especially first dates, this guy keeps it cheap, right? He's talking about coffee, walks, casual drinks, nothing flashy. Why? Well, we could label him as stingy, but I think he's actually being intentional here. His argument is that why would I drop serious money on someone I don't even know yet? He's trying to avoid situations where he's spending just to impress, or worse, maybe get taken advantage of. Now, I don't know how much of that's going on. I'm sure that it happens, but I don't think he's alone here. I think a lot of men chiming in on this thread on Reddit said the same thing, that they've been burned before in certain ways. And they've just noticed that, wow, I've spent way too much money on dates this month or dates this year with people that I didn't really know, wasn't really going anywhere. I, didn't go on a second or third date because they weren't interested or I wasn't interested. Dates where it felt like the woman didn't really care, but was just hungry, or the vibe was off, or the bill was, still a couple $100. I can't say I've ever been on a date with a woman who just seemed hungry to me, personally, but I guess that could happen. Uh, so these guys are got a new rule. Keep it simple. If the connection is real, you'll both know it. And if it's not, no harm, no financial hit. Now, this wasn't just a thread full of men venting. Plenty of women weighed in as well. And surprisingly, a lot of them agreed. I see this as a very controversial subject on social media. No matter where I look, anything in the dating space regarding splitting the bill, who should pay, what classifies as a first date. If the guy offers to take you for coffee, forget it. I don't deal with broke guys or whatever the sentiment is. But the women on this thread shared that they prefer low key dates, coffee shops, bookstores, meetups, park strolls, public places, because they're safer, more relaxed, and they let you actually talk. And here's something important. Many women said they don't want a man to feel like he's auditioning with his wallet. They want to connect emotionally and intellectually, not just financially. And that makes sense to me because while women might want a man who is stable, they might even want a man who is a high earner. The one thing that data says clearly is that women want a partner that they can trust. And how can you trust someone if you don't have an emotional relationship with them, if you can't feel that emotional attunement from them, that they care, that they listen non-defensively, that they're open-minded, that they're actually interested in you? Now, other women on this thread also said they offer to split the bill on early dates or even take turns paying. And that back and forth can build trust, that, sort of notice that we pay attention to that we're equal partners, shows mutual respect. And for a lot of women, they actually said that that's more attractive than a fancy restaurant anyway, the quality of mutual respect. Obviously, not everyone agreed, right? There's some deeper tensions here. And even for some of you listening, you might not agree. And I'd love to hear what you think. Send me a message, shoot me an email, get in touch with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because this is not a new conversation. This is something that has been playing out for decades. Who goes first? Who does what? Who is responsible for what in relationship or on a date? And some folks still hold a more traditional view. Nothing wrong with that. Some people believe that if a man's asking someone out, he should cover it. End of story. And for them, it's not about money. It's about effort. It's a gesture. It says, hey, I'm showing up for you. And other people push back on this. They said, I don't want someone to buy my time. I want to share time together. And so, really, what's underneath all this is a tension between two things: old traditional scripts around dating and gender, and a newer, more intentional way of building emotional connection. Now, which one's right? Honestly, it depends on who you are, what you value, and what you want wants you. It's okay to want what you want. It's really about what kind of relationship are you trying to create? What do you value? And if you value old traditional ways and traditional gender roles, okay, well, you're going to be looking for someone who wants the same thing, who shares the same vision as you. So I'm not here to put down any particular way of doing things, but maybe to encourage you to get clear about what really feels exciting, what's in alignment, what works. When Alyssa and I went out for the first time, it was during the day, it was very casual, it was a walk. And we actually did stop for a coffee. And you know what? She paid. She bought me a coffee, not because I couldn't afford it or because I refused to buy her one. She offered, and I said, okay. And it wasn't a big deal. It was a couple bucks at the coffee store. It wasn't like she went out and was buying me a steak dinner at a fancy restaurant. I didn't have any strong feelings about that. And, I certainly liked her and was interested in her and was hoping that it wasn't the last time I saw her. So I knew there'd be more opportunities to, cook her dinner or take her out, etc. So there aren't really any hard and fast rules here about what you should do. But for me, I really enjoyed going for a walk with her and getting to know her better and being able to have that low pressure experience, having a coffee, and also, maybe even having a time set that's going to be like an hour or two and having some boundaries around that. I think that's really great. And, if I was starting over, which I hope that I never have to do, I would definitely create a more efficient process for dating, similar to what people are suggesting here, especially because something like 60 to 70% of us are meeting online now. Things have changed dramatically. We used to meet most of our partners through work and through mutual friends, right? We meet in proximity. We connect with people who just happen to be close with us. They live next door. They have a desk somewhere in our office. They work in the building. They're friends of my friend. And now more people than ever are meeting online, which is fine, but it also means that sometimes you're going to meet up with people, you're going to go on dates with people you would have never otherwise bumped into because they have a different lifestyle, they go different places, they have different friend groups. And I have had the experience in my life because before I met Alyssa, I had tried online dating. I have had the experience of being interested enough in someone to meet them in person, picking an outfit, clearing my schedule, making a plan, picking a place, meeting them there. And within 5 to 10 seconds, I'm getting a feeling that I don't really think that this is a fit. Now, you could say, wow, that's extremely judgmental. Wow, give the person a try. But if you're honest, you have this experience too. And in that way, attraction is almost not a choice. When you see someone, your physiology, your brain is responding with lightning speed as to whether this person is a yes or a no, whether you're open to their energy or maybe you're more closed to their energy. Now, that's not a single verdict. Sometimes you get to know someone and it changes your opinion of them. Just like you can talk to someone who you find extremely attractive physically, but the more words that come out of their mouth, the more closed you feel, the more you want to get away from the situation. Whereas someone who maybe didn't strike you initially as super attractive or seductive, when you get to know them and you see how beautiful they are and how funny they are and how amazing they are and how talented they are, you're more drawn toward them. You're more energetically pulled in by who they are as a person. And all I'm saying is that we go on dates with people that if we had just heard the sound of their voice, if we had heard their laugh, if, we saw the way they carried themselves beyond a photo, if we just saw the way they carried themselves, the way they walk, the way they hold their energy, the way they hold their body when they stand in front of you, a lot of that stuff can just register as an immediate no. That, actually, no, definitely not. And there's nothing wrong with that. This partner selection process, in my experience, talking with a lot of men and women over the last 6 years in my private practice, it's hardcore. It's can feel cruel, that we're just into someone or we're not into someone. And we don't need to have a long list of reasons. It's just a no. And that's why it's special when we feel a yes. That's why it's special when we feel like, oh, like I like this person. I'm into them. I want to be with them. And that's why there's great poems and songs and books and movies, TV shows written about that experience of falling in love. There's an alignment for two people. And obviously, we know about all the different kinds of ways that that can go sideways. So, what do we do with all this? Well, here are a few things that stood out to me. And the first thing is that people are often dating with more intention in their 30s and 40s. And they've been through enough to know what matters. They're not looking to impress, they're looking to connect. And the second thing is that low cost dates doesn't mean low effort. In fact, it might be the highest effort because they're focused on actual compatibility and having a conversation. And they're not distracted by the fancy ambiance of the expensive venue or dinner or what might be happening around them. Thirdly, whether you're a man or a woman, talking openly about expectations is key. So, who pays? Where do we meet? What are we really hoping for here? Why are we dating right now? That kind of clarity makes dating better for everyone. And whether you're team coffee date or team go big or go home, win me over, the real question is, are we dating to impress people or are we really dating to find a connection? Are we dating to find someone who likes us for who we are? Because at the end of the day, that really matters. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever felt awkward about who pays on a date? Do you prefer something casual or do you like a little bit of flair? Let me know. And thanks for hanging out with me today. We'll see you next week.